breaking some news. This tweet here from John Heyman, our insider on Twitter. Yusei Kikuchi to the Angels, $63 million on a 3-year contract. Kikuchi spent part of the season with the Astros, began the year with the Blue Jays, found a little something during his time with the Astros. He's going to stay in the division, but he's going to Anaheim. What do you make of it?
I love it. You know, the Angels need to go do something. Artie's back spending money again. Look, Artie gets a bad rap, folks. He spends money.
Yes.
He spends money, tries to give his team a chance. So
sometimes the investments haven't worked out.
Yeah.
But I like this move.
And last year, I think he was like, okay, I'm done with all this nonsense.
Yeah.
Now he's back in the game again. You know, I think Ron Washington and Perry Minasian have shown him, we're going to rebuild this thing.
Yeah.
He's given them a little, this is a nice move for them. It's a huge move.
Especially, Harold, when you consider what Kikuchi looked like during his time with the Astros. The Astros basically turned him into a two-pitch pitcher.
Yeah.
Fastball up in the zone, slider down low, and it worked with great success.
It worked, and the biggest number I saw there between the Blue Jays and the Astros, 32 starts. You got a healthy pitcher.
Yeah.
You know, it's important to go get that durability. I like this move. I think it sets the market a little bit too. $63 million.
Okay.
For 3 years. A lot of guys opted not to take the qualifying offer because they know they're going to get a multi-year deal.
Yeah.
So he's kind of setting the market.
21 per year.
Yes.
And Kikuchi, what do you slot him as? A two ace adjacent, if you will?
He's one of the top guys on the board.
Yeah.
I mean, you start looking at guys that took the qualifying offer and decided to go ahead and be a free agent. I know we're looking at the Angels rotation, but he becomes our #1 guy right now.
Yeah. They got Kyle Hendricks.
We're paying guys $50 million a year.
Yeah, you're right. I like Reed Detmers a lot. And then you throw in the fact that if you can get Mike Trout, you know, maybe he's DHing more. Maybe you move him away from center field just to make him more available, get him in that lineup. I think he comes back rejuvenated, and the Angels, on paper, could be interesting.
Yeah, and again, the biggest thing I thought the Angels did last year, you know now what your young players can do.
Right.
We know that they can perform or they can't.
I love Logan O'Hoppe behind the plate.
Yes.
I love Zach Neto at shortstop. What are they going to do at center field? But 2/3 of that up-the-middle trifecta, if you will, are in a good spot.
Yeah, they're in a really good spot. I think the teaching and the coaching there with Ron Washington and his staff is fantastic. So this is a big move. I love this one.
Let's get your thoughts on Yusei Kikuchi going to the Angels, as reported first by our John Heyman. 3 years, $63 million deals to go to Anaheim. What do you think?
One, I think it's a solid deal for Yusei Kikuchi, a guy who really turned things around early in the season last year with the Toronto Blue Jays, getting traded to Houston. And guys, when he got traded to the Astros, he wasn't pitching his best ball, but as the Astros do, they made a tweak here, tweak there, got the best out of Yusei Kikuchi. And he's a guy that has been able to miss bats, especially over the last year. And I think that's something that's going to be huge for that Angels rotation that's added Kikuchi. You go out and you add Kyle Hendricks, who's pitched in the big leagues for a long time. Jose Soriano, who had a solid year. If you get Reed Detmers to pitch like you expect Reed Detmers to pitch, that's probably a guy that's the frontline starter of your rotation, a guy that can get over 200 strikeouts in a year. So I think it's a good move for the Angels and a good move for Kikuchi.
I mean, Soler, D'Arnaud, now Kikuchi. You know, I think Artie's opening up the wallet a little bit. You know, he's giving him a little bit. He's starting to turn this thing around slowly. And so the Angels are going to be fun to watch. I got a question for you, Russell. This is kind of off the cuff. And for both of you guys, isn't it amazing what all the pitchers coming over from Japan are doing? We got to unlock this secret. I mean, they are dealing, and they're staying healthy. I think that's the big thing. I'm curious your thoughts, right off the top of your head, what you might think, why that's working so well.
You know, I think when guys come over to the States, you know, teams are really putting them in a position to succeed, right? It's not just, hey, you're going to come over here, you're going to throw 215 innings. Guys are really working into their success. And even when they have some dips like Kikuchi had for a couple of years, going back to Seattle before he even got to Toronto. You're finding the team that, is right for you. I think sometimes we think, hey, you got to go to all these big market teams where, you got to get paid and you're going to do this, you're going to do that. I think sometimes fit is everything. And so you have a guy like you said, Kikuchi, it doesn't work in Seattle. He goes to Toronto, has some success there, and then you get moved to a team like the Houston Astros where all they've done for the better part of the last decade is win and develop starting pitching.
Yeah.
And you go pick up some things. And so I think for Kikuchi, that trade might have been the best thing that ever happened to him. And it's a very small part of what will be a long career. So, yeah, I think we put guys in a position to succeed when they come to the States. You're likely going to get the best out of them. And when you're investing, what we see teams investing in, Yamamoto and what will be Roki Sasaki and Shohei, like you want to keep those guys healthy for the long haul.
How you doing? And what do you think of Kikuchi 3 year $63 million to the Angels?
Yeah, in terms of the deal, I mean, I don't dislike it. I think it's interesting because it could potentially you maybe take them out of the running for some of the big name pitchers on the market currently. I think every Angels fan is looking at Max Fried as, the name that they want just because he's a former Brave and they seem to just continuously acquire former Braves players. So yeah, I mean, I think it's fine. I think it makes them marginally better. He had a good end to the season. I mean, his overall career stats are, nothing insanely good, but yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense to me. It's they needed another starting pitcher. I feel like for Perry, like they need to be good this year, right? That's his mandate. So, unless they maybe improve 20 wins, I mean, I think that's kind of what the bar is in order to maybe keep ownership happy with where the trajectory of the team is.
I got one follow-up for you on Kikuchi. Why do you think he's the one? Is it just, hey, he identified this guy among a few other pitchers that they like, talking about Perry and the rest of the Angels crew behind the scenes?
Yeah, I think I think you kind of hit on the nail on the head with like the pitch usages. I mean, that clearly worked for him in Houston. So, they probably feel like something's been unlocked to some extent and that it will translate to with this 2025, team. And yeah, I mean, do they have the infrastructure pitching wise? I mean, they've really changed up what, their pitching, just the personnel and, whether that be the pitching coaches, their player development, their game plan. I mean, they just hired Sal Fasano as a pitching coach this offseason. It was obviously a longtime catcher. So, I mean, they're making some changes there. And I think that if they feel like they unlocked something with, his pitch usage that has worked for him, then that it's going to be able to translate at this level with the Angels. I'm sure that's what they're hoping for. And I'm sure that's what, they'll continue to do with him next season. Now, it's a small sample size of being really effective. Like the last 10 starts with Houston, like you said, I mean, they valued him really high. I think everybody was kind of criticizing that trade when it happened as an overpay, but he ended up pitching really well. And, the Astros kind of flamed out in the postseason, but it was at the end of the day, not an awful deal.
On Monday morning, John Heyman, the first to report that the Angels are in agreement with Yusei Kikuchi, left-handed pitcher, on a 3-year, $63 million deal. But let's start with Kikuchi because he's a fascinating case study in how a player can rebuild his value rather quickly. If you remember, Kikuchi, in his first 22 starts with the Blue Jays this season, 4.75 ERA. He gets traded to Houston, and what happens? Houston fixes him like they do with so many pitchers. 2.70 ERA in his final 10 starts. He doubled the use of his slider, reduced the use of his four-seamer, and basically ditched his curveball, became a different pitcher, and now he ends up with another really good free agent contract. With the Angels, it's a fascinating situation. They believe, even though they finished last place in the AL West last year, 6 games behind the A's, even though they were that bad, that they are a team that can actually make up some ground this season. Obviously, it would take Mike Trout being healthy, but they've done some things this offseason to kind of reinforce what they have. And what they like about their team is this emerging young core. Zach Neto, Nolan Shanuel, Ben Joyce, some other players as well. Logan O'Hoppe, of course, would be in that mix. They still have some holes. They're going to likely address those holes. But let's look at what they've done thus far this offseason, because they have easily been the most aggressive team out there, trying again to take a step forward. You see the Kikuchi deal, 3 years, 63. Travis d'Arnaud, after the Braves declined his option, 2 years, $12 million. Kyle Hendricks, we'll see what he has left, 1 year, $2.5 million. Kevin Newman, the infielder, 1 year, $2.5 million.
and the trade for Jorge Soler, who is owed 2 years, $26 million. What do all these guys have in common? Well, if you want to generalize, they're all in their 30s, and they're all considered, for the most part, high character types, every one of those players. And the Angels are trying to change their culture. I wrote about this today in my notes column. This has been something that they've been trying to do, starting with the hiring of Ron Washington, kind of change up the whole mix. The Angels are a team where it seems like they're either spinning their wheels or trying something different every year. And again, so much will depend on Trout, to a lesser extent Anthony Rendon. I don't know that the Angels are counting on him. They still have their needs. Starting pitcher, perhaps another one. Bullpen for sure. Second or third base, depending on where they want to play Luis Rengifo. So the Angels can't be done. It's always interesting to see how Artie Moreno approaches each offseason as the owner.
ご視聴ありがとうございました。チャンネル登録と高評価よろしくお願いします。